where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Jessie Miller, and today we are going to be continuing our comparisons of the cognitive functions. So today is going to be introverted feeling versus introverted thinking. So if you've watched us for a while, you know that we've got lots of resources for you on our channel, and you can go ahead and hop on over there. Also, as you're watching this video, this little eye is going to pop up because there are cards that will take you to specific videos that you should watch at various aspects of this if you are unfamiliar with the terms that we use.
Mm-hmm. As we say in the beginning of every video, anyone can be anything. And while we wholeheartedly believe that and will stand by that statement, this particular video in the series that we're in, this versus series, comparing the functions, we're talking a lot about the behaviors that are consistent across the types who are using these functions to make it more relatable for you to understand these a little bit better. However, the main takeaway behind all this is the motivation behind the behavior. So why is this person doing this? Why is this person making this decision in this situation? That is the biggest point of these videos.
So another thing is that Carl Jung talks about ideal type average, and so these behaviors that we are discussing have to do with how they would be considered idealistically. So ideal not meaning the best, ideal meaning if you could stick it in a vacuum and you could look at like the median of how a person develops. It's also very important that when you are looking at these introspective processes that you are really being honest with yourself. And it is really challenging for people sometimes because even for an introvert, they sort of have like this vision of themselves maybe, and it is not always consistent with what reality is. And feelers, really, because society puts so much pressure on being a thinker, really have a soft spot when it comes to logic. And then logical people, particularly women or people who are older, don't want to be called heartless, and so they may feel like a feeler. So it's really important that you look at these definitions and don't latch on to the examples that we give, but latch on to the motivations, because the motivations are where they're what matters. And I actually just today, the day we are filming this, we released FI versus FE, and I had somebody tell me, you know, I related with almost every single one of Amanda's examples in the FE versus FI video. However, when you explain the motivations behind it, I was able to say I'm not an FI user, I'm an FE. So that is the kind of testimony I love, and that is what I want to hear from people who watch this, that you understand the motivation behind the examples. So let's jump into it. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Any other warning? I can't remember. We do this so much, guys.
Okay, so one warning is that I am an INFP. So my parent function, my second function, is introverted feeling, which is one of the functions that we're talking about today. And Jessie?
I have introverted thinking as my child function, but it's really funny because the two of us, we are shadows of each other. So her parent is FI, and so it wants to parent my TI child, and my FE parent wants to parent her TE child. And so what happens is our functions they kind of, in socionics we're called extinguishing. We will get into that eventually. We've got lots coming, guys. Point is, we're knowledgeable and we know lots of stuff, so stay tuned. But yeah, so when we are discussing FI versus TI, you might, she may come across as a little bit nurturing, encouraging, maybe even a little bossy, because that's her parent coming out and this is how she shows she cares. And then I'm just gonna be real bratty. I'm gonna try really hard. I've really worked on kind of calming down my TI child, and if you watch videos from the very beginning, it's calmed down a lot, but I can't make any promises, guys, because it is a work in progress. A brief description of introverted judging functions, which is what introverted feeling and introverted thinking both are. They are, when you make a decision, you consult your own system. So either values if you're an introverted feeler, or your own logical structure if you are an introverted thinker. A lot of people come to, honestly, the most common mistyping that I see are these two, FI versus TI. I get all the time people come to me and they're like, INFP? No, you're an INTP. I don't know why on earth you ever thought you were an INFP. Or like
me.
I didn't want to say it.
Yeah. So if anyone on here has watched any of the videos where I talk a little more about myself,
beginning.
yeah, very, very, very beginning, like first few videos, I guess.
Literally first 3. I think as long as it lasted.
I thought that I was an ENTP, mainly because I am not a very like emotional person in the sense where like I don't wear my heart on my sleeve. Like I have a hard time sometimes like showing emotion, and I don't like to talk about emotions. So with all that being said, I do not. So with all that being said, the stereotypes did not fit me at all, and I never once tested as a feeler on any test at all, ever. In fact, I tested as a few different types, mainly ENTJs, but almost every time it was, I think actually every single time it was, well, there was one other time, but most times I was a thinking type. And it fit with the stereotypes that you see out there, the behaviors. So even though we look back now, we're like, not once have I ever shown myself to be a TI user. However, when I was like just starting to dive into this stuff, it made sense until I learned the motivation behind it. And then once I now know my motivation for the decisions that I make and the situations I'm in, and why I do the things that I do, honestly, on a daily general basis, why I do the things that I do, I can now very clearly see and argue till the day I die that I am a very strong FI user.
Yes, she is. So, so this happens. Point is that FI and TI are often confused. And Typecast here does offer type clarification for free. So, the point is that the behavioral stereotypes are often not good to go off of because they can look like a lot of things. So the introverted perceiving functions are both, they take a long time to change their minds on things because it's an internal system. They both are slightly defensive because it's very personal to them. They can vary very differently across, like an FI and her looks very different from I'm trying to think. My sister is an ISFP and their FIs look very different. She's married to an INFP and theirs are very different.
Super different.
My husband has an FI child and all of their FIs look very different. They are in TI for me. Like
same thing.
Same
Take 3 different TI users. All 3 of their TIs can be completely different.
Mm-hmm. But the motivations are similar, which is what we're going to get into. They're both reflective and they are like linear processes, meaning that it is a clean line of logic for TI. Even if they don't know formal logic really helped me out. But even if I hadn't learned it, I still would be able to do pretty well what I do with TI. And
it's like a natural gift that she has, regardless of her studies and her like actual schooling with it. It is just organically built within you.
Yep. Even before I studied pre-law, I didn't get a law degree, but my first degree falls under that classification. And even before that, I was pretty good at arguing. And TI users usually are because they're sneaky, but we'll explain that in a second. And then FI has a system of values that are theirs. And again, they usually can fall back to their lines. Honestly, usually fall back to an experience of theirs. Like something happened to them or where they learned something, they saw something to establish their values. Whereas TI, it's like they got a fact or something like that, and that's how they launched theirs. Which is interesting. It's a fact. It's something I learned today. So the specific definitions, we do have videos, so many videos, on TI and FI, but TI is basically your own logical system, FI is your own value system. So let's go ahead and jump into some examples because, again, they can both do things but for different reasons. So let's say a TI and an FI user were offered a new job. What kinds of things would they be checking against to make that decision? So for me, this is a little tricky. I'm not always the best person to go to for this because I do have FE, which overrides my TI most of the time, but I can explain how a TI user would see this. So Amanda, if you had gotten a new job, what would you do?
Honestly, it would have to be it would have to make sense within the little umbrellas I've created within my FI. So whatever my FI cares about, which I have labeled so it's easy for me to fit things in, I would have to make sure that that job falls in line with what matters to my FI. So I'm not going to work for a company that would ruin my peace or others' peace or treat their employees poorly. I'm not going to work for a company that that I can't think for myself at, that I can't announce my ideas, that I'm almost like forced into this routine. I'm not going to do that. That's not my FI.
So a TI user would be looking at that job and they would want to know all of the logistics. Is this going to fit into my logical system? And so, like, for me, I have a tendency to get really, really, really freaking nitpicky about everything. But I have a bratty TI. I've seen people who, like my ENTP friend or my INTP friends, who lead with this function, and they've got a lot. They're a lot more skilled in their picking apart of things. But they will look specifically for, like, okay, how is this going to work out in my life? Like, can I work with this? Can I not work with that? And it's like they're picking apart the job plan, because that's what TI does. It's like, it's zooming through it, and it's like, okay, I can't work with this part because of this, this, and this. I can't work with this part of the job because of this and this. I can't come to the job at 9 a.m. because you have to
drop your kids off at daycare. It's not because of what they believe or because of what they value. It's because it logistically won't work.
So they're like logically working through it. And then FI, Amanda explained it, if it comes in conflict with any of her umbrellas. And her husband is a good example of this because he has walked away from jobs that don't meet. Actually, so has my husband, and he has an FI child.
Actually, so have I.
Yeah, I have never walked away from a job, ever.
Yeah, we'll walk away from a job if it does not align with, and I mean, like, there's obviously again that we don't have to be so dramatic about it. So, like, there are other functions that you have that create a balance in you. So it's not like FI is not responsible because you'll just walk away from a job. I have an FI parent. My FI is actually makes me a little bit more responsible. So it's not like I'm just going to walk out of a job into nothing. Like, I'm still an adult family. I'm going to make sure something else is lined up. The point is that I will do anything I have to leave that job that is going against what I believe in, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it to ruin that piece. I can't go against my FI.
And TI would be more likely to have, like, okay, these are all of my reasons to leave. Like, these are like the logistical reasons. Like, this is not going to help my career in the future. Like, they would have actual concrete data reasons why they can't stay there.
I can make more money doing the exact same job at this job, or something that makes sense like that.
So they would be like cutting through it. So that's one thing. Organizing things. So we've actually given this example before, but this is hilarious to me because every single time it makes me giggle. Because when a TI dominant is organizing something, they will have a logical way that it works, but a way that works for them. So, like, for instance, for me, when I'm organizing my spice cabinet or something like that, I will put the things that we use first in the front, even if it makes no aesthetic sense, even if it makes no, like, there's no alphabetical rhyme or reason, even if nobody else who walked in could see that, who cares? It makes sense to me. It's my logic. We use salt and pepper first. There you go. Cool story. They're right in front. Amanda has an oil shelf because she's into essential oils, and her oil shelf makes no sense to me.
All right. So if you look at it, okay, first of all, it's freaking beautiful. So there's that.
Black caps.
Okay, there's a few black caps, but whatever. Anyways, the point is that this oil shelf it's color coded, because to me, I like everything color coded. It's just not necessarily an FI thing, but it's just what I like.
No, that is totally an FI thing. That is literally the definition of FI.
No, but I mean, like, it's not like I care so much about the colors. Like, it's not a value that I hold dear to me. It's that when I'm organizing something, I want it.
You are color everything. Guys, she's lying to you. She has colors. She threw a fit about our calendar because we had to change the color scheme. She's not telling the truth. She values colors so much.
I've never actually thought about it as like a value.
It is
That's such a silly thing to value.
And like rainbows, like she's so particular about certain things. Like the color can't be like it. She picked like 3 of the same variety of colors for her kitchen, and like still changed it, didn't you?
This is true. Yes.
She's lying to you. She values very much colors.
All right. TI.
That is an example of how TI does it. Did you see what I did? I listed all of the logical reasons. I had all of the examples. This is how TI wins the arguments. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good. We're done.
The end. TI dominates, as always.
So I've never put color coordinating under my FI. I've always put it under my TE because I think that it is easier for people to... Anyway, so the point is here is that yes, I color coordinate everything. My closet is separated by... See, okay, but can we talk about yours?
Yeah, go for it. I don't care. 5
shirts on one hanger. Okay, so literally...
Makes sense to me.
So, there's no possible way you can logic your way through that.
You want to bet? That sounds like a challenge, guys.
Challenge accepted. So my closet is organized by season, and then it's organized by dresses, shirts, pants, and then it is organized within those little departments by color. So and it's rainbow color, not something weird. It's like red all the way to black. So I do the same thing and everything else. So my oil shelf is all color coordinated and it's beautiful. It looks so pretty. And I do the same thing. Yes, for our calendar, for our shared calendar, I originally chose a color scheme that was so pretty because I know that she loves purple. So I did it around purple. So it was purples and pinks and reds and maroons and all these really rich like berry colors. And they were so pretty. And then we had to add one more label, like one more category, because I categorize everything. And so we had to add one more category, and I ran out of berry colors. And so then I decided, okay, I obviously have to switch all this up now because I can't have one random color. So I moved us to a rainbow color scheme because I needed another color, and there was no other group of colors that had enough color variations. So
let's talk about the motivations behind there, guys. I have a logical way that even if it doesn't make sense to the person, somebody else can follow my line of logic. Yeah. They can understand. Like I was able to explain to you guys why my spice cabinet looks a certain way. If I was in charge of her oil cabinet or her oil shelf, I would probably do something very similar. Is I would put the oils that we use most like in a feasible place, but I am able to give you the logical lines of why I do what I do. And I can explain why I have 5 shirts on hangers because my hanger is very small and I put all of like my t-shirts on one hanger. So if I'm like, hey, I want a t-shirt for this outfit, I have to pull off one hanger and all of my t-shirts are right there. Makes perfect sense to me. Whereas hers, it's more of, it's pretty, guys. That's values.
It is.
And those are justified too. It is valid and her house looks much nicer than mine. So there is that. Like there is no argument that her house is infinitely prettier, and if somebody were to look at our closets, they think I was a psychopath and that she was very organized. Same for our freaking spice cabinet. So there are benefits to both things. However, the motivations are what you guys need to pay attention to. Like if I had to justify it, I could.
I can't justify it. Mine is just pretty and it just makes sense. You're not going to be able to find. That is one very annoying thing that my husband has stated many times is that unless he remembers the color of the oil, which that's another thing. I do remember the color of the oil. Like I will tell him like, go get the 15 milliliter red bottle of this and like he'll go find it. But if I don't tell him the color, my God, it'll take him 30 minutes to find the freaking bottle because there's so many of them. So yeah, it's not ideal when it comes to like other people being able to necessarily find it.
But it looks pretty.
It looks so pretty.
And
I should put a picture right here.
It creates internal peace.
Yes, which is my FI.
And that matters. So there you go, motivations.
Yes.
So let's continue on. So those 2 examples we just gave, deciding a new job and organizing something, those are both very practical and they're very concrete in reality. So what we want to do now is we want to talk about more abstract things, because even if you are not an intuitive, you still have to do things like decide which political party you're going to follow. So for me personally, oh man, internet, come after me. I am more likely, and I don't speak for all TI users, but I'm going to explain like the background. My logical structure has come to this conclusion that I would rather vote for a person who may not have the best values if they are the most logical choice because of this, this, and this, and this. So I will have my reasons. I will have the facts in front of me. I will say, like, I get that this guy may not be the most awesome. He might have, like, done some adultery or something in the past. Figure out who that guy was, guys. That shouldn't be too hard. But he makes the most logical sense because of all of these reasons, all of these facts. Look at his track record. Look what he actually did while he was in office. All of those sorts of things. And I would probably be more likely to give someone the benefit of the doubt for that because I have logic, which lets me override any values judgment that I would play. It's almost like a pros cons list. It's kind of how TI works. It's like they have their own set of conditions and then they are looking for the positives versus the negatives, and then they'll go with the one that makes the most positive sense according to their conditionals.
So opposite for FI, you would think, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably be thinking that I was about to say, that I probably would vote for someone who is a good person, who has good values and all that. That's not necessarily true though. It has to align with my values. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this person's a good person and has never cheated or has never done anything wrong or anything like that. But his or her standpoint has to align with my personal values. Which also leads me to say that, like, I will never choose a party. I won't choose a party. Part of that is my NE, but a lot of it is the fact that I don't necessarily know who's going to align with my actual values because my values aren't really related to politics. So I have to actually hear that person out. I have to watch a lot of the interviews. I have to look at, like, actually what they've done in their life, what they've accomplished in their life. I have to actually see what they've done for me to make a decision. I won't go with a party. I could vote one party one year and the complete opposite party the next year, depending on who is running. But again, it's not just that I care that they're a good person. They have to align with what I believe in.
So yeah, so again, look at the motivations. For me, I have a logical list of things, and for her, she's got a list also, but it's a value list.
Yep.
So even the things that we are looking at are different. Like, I would be looking at track record versus Amanda's literally saying she's going to look at the interviews because she wants to hear what this guy says, what he's like.
Yeah.
She wants to be able to make a judgment based on that, on who he is. I want to make a judgment based on what he's done. Now, here's the thing. If your framework, TI user, is based on how a person interviews, because theoretically you could have a framework that says that, are you checking it against your set of conditions? Like, if this, then this. If this, then this. Like, if you are doing that, again, this is kind of like, you really have to think about how you think. And it's hard, and sometimes it takes talking it through. Again, come get your type clarified with us. But if you want to really know if you have a logical structure, you need to sit and think about it for yourself.
You do. And also, one other thing is that one thing that I would do in that situation, and I hesitated saying this at first, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, is that sometimes I may watch these interviews and I may do the research, and I do a lot of research. I'm not one of those people that just, like, chooses somebody because like, God forbid I choose the wrong person and I then feel guilty forever because I just chose someone who's completely against my values. So I do a lot of research. But a lot of times if I can't actually put something in, like, if I can't, like, see so clearly which one is best or which one is better, and, like, or if either of them, if it's like the lesser of two evils or something, you know, which it normally is, then what I will do is I will go with my gut. There's something in me that just usually can figure out the answer, and I won't be able to tell you how or why, nor do I care. I really don't, because I, have lived in this body my whole life, and I also know all of the feelings that I'm feeling, and I know that when I am feeling something in my gut, then when I feel something deep in my core, regardless of how I can explain it to you or if I can explain it to you, I know that 9 times out of 10 it's right. And we've talked about this, that, like, typically, even before we started doing this research and stuff, that's always called intuition. Always. Like, in everyday language, that's what people would say. But this is for sure an FI thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not an NI or NE thing. Those still have reasons behind it. FI is just one of those things that like you just feel. Like you just feel it in the pit of your stomach. So if you are a person that often goes off of gut feelings, gut instincts, gut whatever, there's a very good chance that you might be an FI user.
Mm-hmm. And so the last one that we're going to talk about, the last example that we're going to give is choosing a religion. And so I understand that this can be a sensitive topic and that some people, religion, there is an objective truth.
Mm-hmm.
For a person who has TI, I've seen if you have a TI and your logical system incorporates an aspect of religion, meaning that you have like one of your premises in your logical system is a religious statement like there is only one God, and that is a condition that you are working forward from, that is like something that you've accepted as one of your framework, then religion is probably easier for you to accept.
Mm-hmm.
But what TI has a tendency to do, and this really killed me, I grew up in a church where my mother was a children's pastor, and so when I was a child, it was really challenging for me because TI really wants to pick apart all of the things. And so something that I was really guilty of is that I would find lots of pieces of scripture and I would be able to kind of tear it apart. And so a lot of the adults really didn't know what to do with me because they weren't really used to that kind of behavior. I was very precocious as a child. Mm-hmm. I've seen this work the other way though. I've seen this there was one of my very first interviews I ever did was with an INTP, and he lived in India, and he believed very strongly in Hinduism, and he had this crazy sense of peace, and I was super concerned that he may be an INFP instead, but he was able to explain his lines of logic, and he had the very thing that I said. In his logical framework, one of the things that he built everything forward from was that Hinduism speaks the truth. That these are the parts of Hinduism that I adhere to wholeheartedly, and I don't question that. And every person, even TI users, has a premise that they work forward from. It just depends on where do we go? Like, where do we start? And so for him, that is where he started. And from there, after he accepted that premise, he was able to make logical lines through everything in life that he did. So point of that is TI still a clean line of logic that other people can follow, but he was applying it to accept religion, whereas others use it to kind of struggle with religion. So it just depends on what our logical frameworks look like. And for an FI user, you would think that it would be easy to just accept religion because they are so used to that. However,
no, it can be really, really difficult because everything in religion is if you're choosing a specific religion, let me say it that way, choosing a specific religion is very difficult because in our society, if you relate to that, if you're going to say that you are this religion, then you are expected that every single value that religion holds is also your value. That's also something that you believe in. Every single one. Like, you can't just say, oh, I believe in half of these, I don't believe in the other half of those. That's not what our society views as like being religious. So it can be really, really difficult because I consider myself religious. I have faith, and but even within my religion, there is actually a lot that I very strongly disagree with. So I have a hard time choosing a church and going to that specific church and agreeing with every single thing that church does. I have a hard time even going through the Bible sometimes and saying like, okay, I agree with everything in the Bible. I have a hard time with putting myself, and again, this has a little bit to do with NE, but it's more FI because I have a hard time saying that like I'm choosing this religion and everything that comes with it, because 9 times out of 10 I don't.
Right, because she has her own values, and again, if you listen to her motivation, it's not that she's trying to logic her way through. It's
No.
like, it's not like TI where it's like cutting through the pieces, like I was doing with the Bible where I was picking it apart, or like the person in India was with establishing a premise and working forward and making the religion fit. She has umbrellas of values, and often what she's saying is she can't make the whole religion fit.
Yep.
Now, I interviewed an ENFP yesterday, literally yesterday, who is, I'm sure he hasn't changed his religion in 24 hours, but he is a Christian, and his whole umbrella, all of his umbrella, is Christianity. So he has, in his instance, he actually made Christianity the umbrella under which all other values fall. So for Amanda, it's like she has her own umbrellas, and then she has to try to see how religion will fit under those.
It's like I had to choose again, like that sounds wrong. I was going to say that again, the lesser of the two evils, but that's not right.
No.
No. So but it's hard because I also didn't grow up religious. I chose a religion much later in life than the average person usually would. And so, and I didn't even grow up learning about religion. Like I grew up in a household with an atheist, and so I just like was not part of our conversations ever. So all my life, I had already created this whole value system. I had collected all these things, I had seen all these things, and I had my own beliefs and my own values. So when I decided to start looking for a religion, when I decided that was something I was going to pursue, it was really difficult because I already had all these beliefs and I couldn't find a religion that fit under every single one. Like their values, I couldn't find places for them in my FI sometimes. And so I came to terms with that, and I said, okay, you know what? I have faith and I have my own relationship here, and I have my own relationship with God, and that's what matters. And luckily, FI can be okay with that.
Mm-hmm. So those are our examples today. So hopefully you understood one of them. And again, please, please, please look at the motivations behind it, because TI and FI, they fight each other more than anything else. Mm-hmm. I see more conflict between TI dominance and FI dominance than anything else. Like those two things. But you can't, you guys are coming from two different places. In TI
it's apples and oranges. It's literally apples and oranges. Like this is why language is so important.
It is.
This is why.
TI users, I got news for you. You have values too. Mm-hmm. Even if you are able to use logic to go through, here's something for you. Here's a little homework, TI dominance. Pick a value, pick anything that you believe, and work all the way backwards and try. You will hit eventually a value, something that isn't a fact. There's a reason that you have the beliefs that you do. You have to work backwards to find them. All things, at the end of the day, are values, because if you are choosing this set of facts, that means you are ignoring this set of facts, and you have a value judgment on why that set of facts don't mean anything to you, because there's no such thing as true objectivity. I know, guys, I'm sorry. No, I know, I'm sorry, they're going to be mad, but there's no such thing as objectivity in the end of the day. I understand that a lot of people believe that there is, but...
And FI... I wish I could help you out here on TI, but I'm honestly absolutely horrendous at it. I do not really use TI, nor do I have any desire to.
One day she will. Shadow work will come into play. I'll help her. Don't worry.
And I also wanted to say one other thing. One thing that was very, very hard when we were trying to figure out my type all along this whole type journey thing. One thing was like, when we say look at your default setting or your core, a lot of times the most efficient way to go about figuring out your core is to look at you as a child. Like look at your childhood, look at who you were before the world got to you, And with that, TI is known to argue. It is like what it is known for, is arguing. And so growing up, I would argue just to argue. That's how it always felt. And that was what every single person always told me. And so it was really difficult for me when I'm trying to go about this. And I literally I was living the life of the stereotype of what TI is, but I didn't feel like I used TI anymore. But as we have been saying, types don't change, they evolve. So I had a lot of confusion going on because I was like, okay, I was like this as a child, I'm not like this now, but types have changed. So who was I then? Who am I now? The thing is that for you as an FI user to decide on what your values and beliefs are, unless you are someone who your values and beliefs fall right in line with a religion or with your household that you grew up in, and you just took those values and beliefs, and some people and some types do that, unless you were one of those people, if you're just an FI user that's out here just like free for yourself and trying to figure it out, you're probably going to be arguing because you're going to need to figure out what your values and beliefs are. So you're going to constantly push and push and push and try to get more information or more feedback or just different views sometimes to figure out which one you actually align with. Like I could argue for something to someone and then the very next day argue against that something just to get different feedback to see which one I actually agreed with. So yes, it came across as arguing just to argue, but at the end of the day, what I was trying to decide, I was trying to do was actually figure out how I actually felt about it. I could argue either way, but which one did I actually agree with? That's what I was trying to figure out all those years. It just took me a while to see that.
Exactly. And for TI, can often look very emotional because they get real excited and they get real anxious and real
passionate.
Thank you. I was going to use another word, but very passionate about what they believe in. And so when they're arguing, it can come across as very emotional. And so sometimes they're like, FI, that's the FI user right there. Yeah. Especially if you're a girl. One of my close friends thought she was an INFJ. She's actually an INTP. I knew that. She did not. But I could see it because TI to me is one of the most obvious functions. I can see TI and TE really quickly. Actually, I can see FI, FE real quick.
Go watch if they're out, I don't know if they're gonna be out, but go watch our TI child video because Jessie talks about in there with every child function, you tend to like want to you see them as a child as well, and so you want to like kind of parent them a little bit and like nurture them. And so Jessie actually loves TI. So she's able to pinpoint it almost immediately because she's also actively looking for it. Like she loves to chat with TI users. I do. Loves it.
But I can also see FI real quick. Yeah. I've got judging functions are really easy. Perceiving functions are harder to see, but
I mean it took time. But for sure now it's easy for you to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't get if you're watching this, don't get the idea that it's just like, oh yeah, it's so easy to see. Like that's not.
No, I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah. So give it time if you're trying to figure this out.
Over 3,000 people.
Right.
So
give it time. Don't just think that this is something that just is so natural and so easy or anything like that.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
All right, guys. Well, being human is really hard.
Hopefully this is making it just a little bit easier.
Thank you for watching our video. If you made it all the way, by the way, to the end of this video, and you still don't know your type, look at the axis. So TI goes with FE, FI goes with TE. You can go check out our videos on the axes to figure out more about that. We've got lots of comparison videos with lots of examples, and we try really hard to give different examples in every video so that you're not just getting a bunch of repeated stuff. So
hopefully this makes it a little bit easier to figure it out. And if you are still trying to figure it out and you've looked at the axis and you've watched our other videos, then message us. We are on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, and Discord. Also, obviously, YouTube. So you can drop a comment below and we'll reach out. And if you happen to have watched our very first video, welcome to Typecast Heroes, then thank you. If you haven't, go watch that real quick. And then come back here and again, leave a comment below or message us if you are interested in being interviewed, and Jessie will get you hooked up.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTI TYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.